I used to get at least 3 cavities a year. For the past 4 years, I've got none. No, I didn't change my toothpaste. I didn't become a flossing pro that I floss 10 times a day. I still used fluoride-free toothpaste, and the only thing that I changed is how I breathe at night. Hey, my name is Hedy Shah. I'm a mindfulness teacher and body worker, and I support those who've tried so many different things to finally move beyond what keeps them stuck and in pain, through nervous system regulation, breath work, and posture-focused strength training that addresses the root cause, not just the symptoms. Mouth taping, meaning keeping my mouth shut at night, changed my oral health, changed my overall health, and also transformed my relationship. I know that sounds wild. I wouldn't have believed it either. Let me explain. We've been told cavities come from too much sugar consumption, not flossing enough or brushing enough. That's part of it. But something that dentists never told me is the importance of oral microbiome and saliva flow, both of which that are completely shaped by how you breathe at night. I always struggled with having cavities, and I would go to the dentist and they'd be like, "Oh, you should be flossing more. It's obvious that you're not flossing," while I was religiously flossing, and I did it in the hope that my cavity would stop at some point. Then one day, after I started mouth taping for a year, and I went for my checkup, and for the first time in my life I had no cavities, and the doctor said, "It looks like you're flossing regularly." Yes, for the first year I was still flossing, but then I got curious. It's like, what if I don't floss and I keep going with my mouth taping? I don't suggest you not flossing. Do whatever you want to do at your own risk. I stopped flossing because I absolutely hate having my hands in my mouth. And then I went for another checkup a year later. And to my surprise, my doctor said, "You must be flossing every day. Your teeth are great. You've got no cavities. You're good to go." And I was amazed because the only things that I've changed was mouth taping. When you sleep with your mouth open at night, this is what happens. Your mouth dries out, your saliva drops, the acidity in your mouth increases, and bacteria thrives in your mouth. And then that's when cavity forms. Your saliva is your mouth's natural defense system. No saliva, no protection. And no amount of flossing or the best kind of toothpaste in the market won't do much, or at least it didn't do anything for me. But nasal breathing did its magic. Keep that in mind. I never considered myself a mouth breather. I know those people who snore, they already know that they're mouth breathing. I just never snored. And I was such a quiet sleeper, and I had the assumption that, I'm okay. But it looks like I needed mouth taping as much as my husband, who was snoring. I'll get to that later. Not only mouth taping supports your oral health, what it does that is fascinating to me is it improves your posture, because when you mouth tape at night, your tongue gets to rest on the roof of your mouth. And because of that pressure that it creates, that supports your jaw and your facial structure. If you've been around, you know I'm obsessed with posture, and I constantly talk about how can we reclaim our power through posture work. And around the time that I started mouth taping, I was also doing a lot of postural work. And only in a year, my facial posture completely transformed. I already talked about this before, that when I had my car accident, I felt disoriented and I felt like something was tremendously wrong with my jaw, because I could see one side of my teeth were shortening and I had a lot of jaw pressure. And then I started doing a lot of postural restoration work and focusing on my pelvis health and optimizing my breathing mechanics, and simultaneously doing the mouth taping. All of that supported my jaw. And you can see the photo here, how the transformation happened. But you know, your jaw and the closure of your jaw is super important, and it depends on so many different factors. I know for me, because I had braces as a kid and they pulled some of my main teeth out of my mouth because my jaw was too small. So I will forever have jaw issues unless that I want to go through another round of treatment to be able to really open my jaw up and get those teeth that I lost implanted. But that's another whole conversation that I'm not going to get into for this video. We talked about dental health, we talked about posture. The other powerful thing has been I became such a deep sleeper, because before that, I always identified as a light sleeper, that just a little noise, little thing would wake me up and I needed to go to the toilet, and then I just never had any deep sleep before that. But when I started mouth taping, my sleeping quality tremendously improved. And when I wake up in the morning, most days I'm actually very rested and I rarely wake up to go to the toilet now. In today's video, I will share how I do my mouth taping, because there are a lot of information out there. Mine is pretty simple. I get into it. But before that, I also want to share my husband's experience, because he's been snoring and he had congested nose for his entire life, and he always had a lot of allergic reaction every season. He was very unhappy with the fact that his snoring would wake me up at night, so he got on board with doing the mouth taping with me. But because he had congested nose, he needed to start with nasal strips. If you look them up online, you can find them. So that supports with opening up your nasal pathways a little bit more. And then depending on how congested you are, maybe after a week or so, you can start simultaneously mouth taping. And he was an absolute light sleeper. And it was so funny because we would wake up in the middle of the night, we were both awake. And that doesn't happen anymore. He started making massive progress in how he breathes, and also his allergy symptoms reduced significantly. So this helps improve our relationship too. So if you watched this far, you might want to know how I do the mouth taping. So I buy these 3M surgical tape for probably around £2. And I know there are a lot of brands out there that you could buy. They're extremely expensive. I'm not going to do that. So I'm using these, and I take a little piece of tape, not too big, and I put it like that. So I'm still able to speak, not perfectly, but I'm able to speak. And then also, I don't think it's necessary for the entire mouth to be fully shut with these big tapes. As long as you have a reference point, automatically your mouth remains shut. But my husband prefers it this way. So you can test it out for yourself and see how that works for you. One thing that to keep in mind is the first few weeks it's really normal that you won't be able to find your tape in the morning. You don't know where it is. You will lose it during the night. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it. My husband got so sold on this idea. Now we had a conversation with my parents, because my dad always struggled with sleeping and always wake up in the middle of the night, and he needs to take sleeping pills and all of that. Now he is completely sold on it. He does it every single night, and I don't think I've ever seen my dad do anything like that. But he's an advocate for mouth taping. I also, when I was doing my research, so you gotta, depending on what kind of tape you use, if you tend to be extremely sensitive, so you wanna also check that you don't have any allergy to the tape itself. So keep that in mind as well. So if you have any further questions, please let me know. And if you want to know more about your posture and how can you optimize your breathing mechanics while you're mouth taping, check out the quiz, Discover Your Body quiz down below. And I'll see you in the next video.